Hey, what is up? Welcome to a tour of my SkyFactory world. So, this series has been going on now for about 32 episodes, I think, at about 2 hours apiece. So, I got quite a few hours into this world. I do a little off stream as well. And especially now that I'm getting close to the end of the series, I hope, maybe I'll be wrapping it up tonight even. There's a lot going on here, and I just wanted to take a minute to kind of explain to people all the different parts of the island, so that if you're looking to do this in the future and you're wondering, what the heck is that thing? Or what the heck is that thing, right? If you haven't been watching that's probably the one that's caught your eye so far. I just want to give you guys a tour. So let's start. We'll start up here. So up here we have a couple of the Draconic Evolution items. A weather controller, and a sundial. Now, those are both important by themselves, but then they have some things that actually make them work. The sundial is hooked up to a daylight sensor, and the weather controller is hooked up to a rain sensor. And then these little blocks next to them are sound mufflers, and all those do is mute them, because both of these devices are so loud. So what they actually do, the weather controller lets me turn off the rain, right? So I feed it emeralds, and then I can tell it to turn the rain on, make thunderstorms, turn the rain off. And by hooking it up with a rain sensor, whenever it rains, automatically gets turned off. Fantastic to have. Same thing going on over here with the sundial. So basically, as soon as it gets dark, this inverted signal here lights up, and this accelerates the time of the sun. We might get a chance to see it before the tour's over. The reason for these four little pieces, though, this is just to add a delay. When it stops the sun, it stops it right on the horizon, which, it's not bad, but it's still a little dark for me. So by adding in these delays, it pushes the sun up, so instead of being right on the horizon, it ends up about 1 or 2 sun lengths above. So that works pretty well. Next, we'll take a look over here. This is a huge farming station. One of the achievements in SkyFactory 2 was to make 20 max-size farms. Now, as you can see, I don't even have the seeds to do all these, and I don't even have them outputting to chest or anything. So, it was really for the achievement. This is the one that's getting used the most, right? So I have these magical crops, which magical crops is a mod that lets you grow basically anything. In this case, I'm growing diamonds. So these make essences, you combine those, and they turn into diamonds. So the farming station's sitting in the middle. Items get put up into an ender chest, which is set up to compress all the items and turn them into actual diamonds or blocks. And then, this guy, autonomous activator, right? So you plop an item in this, and it uses it. It's just like a real player using the item. In this case, we can stick a watering can, has to be reinforced though, in here, and it accelerates the growth of these just exponentially. I mean, you can see how quickly these are growing. Meanwhile, over here, just sitting there, just taking their time. So, this setup here with the 4 autonomous activators, 4 watering cans, this gives me my best bet to produce diamonds. And you'll see why I'm so gung-ho on diamonds in a minute. This little guy over here, this is a Draconic Evolution energy core. And if I hover over this, you'll see here, up there, 2.14 trillion RF is its storage capacity. This thing is huge. It holds more energy than anything I've ever seen in Minecraft. It's absolutely the biggest storage block I've ever seen. It's also quite expensive to make. I think there's something like 250 redstone blocks and 180 draconic blocks in here. And the draconic ore, a little hard to come by. Oh, let's come up here so you'll be able to see. See, that shoots it off, kills that rain. And in just a moment, we're going to see the sun set, and then our sundial will do its thing. While we're waiting for that, though, let's keep the tour going. So we've talked about the battery. We got this over here. This is my cobblestone generator. You can't see it, but underneath these tesseracts, there's a block of water and a block of lava. So your, standard cobblestone generator. Oh, let's watch. And you might want to shield your ears. This one is actually pretty loud. So you'll see here the daylight sensor, the signal slowly dropping. And in just a moment, the signal will die. And there we go. So that kicks on. You can see the time is accelerated quite rapidly. Look at it go. And now here's the thing. It would normally stop right there. But by adding in these delays, we actually get the sun to come up an extra length. Just kind of makes it a little brighter. Okay, so back to the cobblestone generator. So we're generating cobblestone out of these. The reason we're using so many tesseracts is they have infinite item, capacity. They push items infinitely, quickly. So inside of each of these, we have 64 world interaction upgrades, which allow this transfer node to just keep pulling cobble from this block. Now we have one stack of these for each tesseract hooked up. So like these end ones that have 4 tesseracts, they get 4 stacks. So that means, I don't know the interval, maybe it's every tick. It's pushing a whole stack into each one of these tesseracts, which you get fed over here and into this deep storage unit. So you can see this thing is counting up like 2,000 blocks of cobble at a time. Just going real quick. We're getting close to filling this guy up. We need to put like 2.14 billion blocks in here. So we're getting pretty close. Now before it was creating just plain cobblestone just for that, it had been piping the cobblestone over to here, which these are crucibles, and they actually produce lava. And there's a couple different ways you can heat them. The most efficient is with this stuff right here. Let's see if I can get the cursor over top of it. Yeah, we might not be able to get a cursor on it, but it's I don't even remember what the name of it is. Let's see. Oh no, that's a bad idea. That's fantastic. This stuff is super hot, right? So it is, you can see it's just setting fire to everything, and it's actually turning my cobblestone into stone. Right, so that was actually kind of neat. Thankfully, crafting tables are not burnable. Yeah, you can see it actually catches the stone on fire here. But that causes the lava to get generated 7x speed, right? For a source block, or 5x for a flowing block. Whereas netherrack that's just on fire, you can see here, 3x. Now, back when we were actually using lava for lava generators, this was quite useful. Now, it doesn't even get cobblestone piped into it anymore. Yeah, so this is all purely for one achievement. Just trying to fill up that DSU. Alright, let's head down here. So over here, this seems pretty common for just about any of these big mod packs, right? This is just my crafting, getting stuff done station, right? We got all of our different systems. We have the ME system here for storage. This is all pretty standard. You're going to see this in any Feed the Beast mod pack. Now over here is where I've actually gotten the majority of my items. While those farming stations are great, you do actually have to keep a hoe in them. and they go through hoes very quickly. I think a diamond hoe lasts something, like with the magical crop set up the way that it is, a diamond hoe would last me maybe 20 minutes. Not long at all. But over here, I'm using harvesters. Now these, when you have the upgrade in them, do 25 by 25 blocks. So you can see just a huge, huge swath of land. Now the downside is they don't replant by themselves. Underneath, we had to have this planter. So seeds get piped on into that, and then they get replanted. It's a little slower, so it takes a bit to do the collection, but it's exponentially cheaper to get one of these running than it is to get one of those farming stations. And so I have a lot of my items. They get pumped into this chest here. Seeds get filtered out and sent back down. Everything else gets sent over here. We're using these crafters a lot, right? So you can just have it take the essences from the magical crops and craft them into items, put them into an inventory, and then they get pumped out over here. So, you know, we have things like redstone generating, Certus quartz ore. So, I mean, just lots of different items, just basically anything that we think we're going to need a ton of. Now over here, this is purely for the achievement. This is to fill an entire chunk, all 256 height of it, with triple compressed cobblestone. It's a lot of cobblestone. It really is. It's a ton. But, you know, that achievement's actually getting pretty close to wrapping up. Over here, just, you know, a little field. This is where I spawn friendly mobs. I do have a powered spawner hooked up here, and that is from, let's see, Enderio. And so with that, it's actually producing pigs. So if I reduce the herd a little bit, you can see it's just spawning pigs pretty rapidly. So great source of food, great source of experience if I need it. But up here, this horrible contraption. I mean, it's absolutely a PETA nightmare, right? You got these cows. These are moo fluid cows, so they're not your standard cows. They don't just give milk. They give things like molten cobalt, rocket fuel, silver, bronze, hooch, Hulk venom. But so nonetheless, they produce a bunch of different kinds of fluids. And so what you can use is a rancher. This will extract liquids from the cows when they're ready to be milked. And rather than make 20 ranchers and set them all up and have a huge thing set up for these cows, I just put them in a track like this using the conveyor belts. And it just kind of forces them around, and when they get in front of the rancher, it collects their fluid and then pumps it out into these drums. These drums will hold 256,000 millibuckets. So 256 buckets of a particular fluid. And so there's one for each type of cow, and it just goes ahead and milks them and pumps it on out. So down here, we have the same kind of powered spawner that you saw over there with the pigs, but this one is set up to produce zombies. Now it has a vacuum hopper on it, and the vacuum hopper does two things. It collects experience and feeds it into this tank, which if we look under here, you can just barely see it. We'll go over there in a second, but we have an XP tank set up. It also collects all their items and feeds it into a chest over here. Now, the reason the chest is over here and the reason that we have this kind of strange looking thing is we used to have a mob spawner way up there. But once we got the powered spawner, this just became more efficient. So as zombies are killed, their items go in here. If they are any of the special loot bags that SkyFactory adds from extra utilities, they get filtered over into an autonomous activator that just right-clicks them right into the chest. So it just puts all those items back into the chest. And then everything else gets pumped out over here. And we have these better barrels. It's the Jabba mod. That will hold 64 stacks of a particular item. And these are very cheap to make. And we just have barrels upon barrels for all the different items that we could get. And this really is only like probably a third of the items that we could get. And then anything that's left had been getting pumped into a little chest here. But now that we're at the point we don't even need the items, we pump them into a trash can. It just deletes them and they go away. If you've been noticing the gigantic creeper over here, nothing special about this guy. He's just a statue. But he does have something special on his head. This is a magnum torch. So this prevents mobs from spawning for a 64 by 64 radius. It's just huge. So basically my entire island here was covered. The problem is that its vertical axis is only 32. Which means at the top of our big reactor, which we'll go check out in a minute, I had to put another one up there because it just wasn't quite cutting it. We come down here. We have another one of our farming stations set up. That was our first one that I set up, and it's mostly been retired now. It doesn't get used a whole lot. But over here, we have this little guy. So now the armor that I'm wearing that allows me to fly is this draconic armor. Very great stuff, except it is extremely hard to find draconium. One of the ways that we can get it, though, is with these automatic sieves if we're feeding in crushed endstone. Well, endstone, right? It's a little bit of a problem since the end, like the rest of SkyFactory, is empty. So what we actually have going on here, down here we have enderminescence, an RF furnace, which is hooked up to a cobblestone generator. So this is making stone. And the essences and the stone get piped in here, and we can craft endstone. Now that endstone then gets fed into a pulverizer. So this is making the crushed endstone, and then we have 3 automatic sieves hooked up. The third one's a little hard to see down there. We'll wait for the rain. And we're done. Good. That's possibly my favorite item of any mod ever, just getting rid of the rain like that. But yeah, so these automatic sieves, they are sieving the crushed endstone, and it's something like a 1% chance to get draconic ore. So very slow process. But it's going and it's running all the time, and it pumps everything into this ender chest here. And if you're not familiar with ender chest, they work just like the regular ender chests where they're linked together, except these, you actually use the wool blocks on the top and you apply dye to them to link specific chests together. So here, white, yellow, white will link to any chest that's white, yellow, white, which we have one right here. Now this is hooked up to an auto packager. Auto packager, very simple. It takes any items that it gets. If it can be combined in a 3x3 or 2x2, it does so. Takes them from the left inventory, spits them out of the right. So if you haven't noticed by the armor letting me fly, the fact that holds 2.14 trillion RF, Draconic Evolution is pretty much on the completely overboard side of overpowered. I mean, just completely ridiculous. For example, the axe that I'm holding, which does 60 attack damage and can be set up to AoE also, that's how quickly it mines. I have to be careful not to mine too much because one tap, gone. And I can set that up to be a 9x9 radius. It's absolutely ridiculous how powerful this stuff is. And I say all that because we have this here. It's a draconic chest. Look at the storage capacity. This thing is huge. But it's not just huge. It actually has a built-in furnace. So whenever items show up, that can be smelted, it smelts them. And it doesn't just smelt them into one block, it actually doubles the production. So if it smelts one piece of ore, you get 2 ingots. I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely asinine how powerful this thing is. So all those items, when they can be combined into blocks, get pumped over here into our solid white chest. And this little setup here is just because the draconic ore actually has to go through a hammering process. And you can do that manually, or you can use the auto hammer. And so items just get fed through in a loop, but only draconium dust finally makes it into the furnace. And here you can see the ore, gravel, sand, and dust get pumped into here and get hammered down, and then eventually get fed back in to be smelted. So, like I said, once all that gets done, it gets pumped into this chest, which is hanging out right over here. This is kind of my catch-all chest, right? This feeds everything back into my ME system so that I have all my items. Like the draconic blocks that I'm making, 891 blocks, right? So all those just are producing all the time. It makes it really easy to keep ahead on what you need to make. We have the QED here. This is going to be known to you if you've used extra utilities before. Just a special crafting table for some of our stranger stuff. And let's look at the basement real quick, and then we'll talk about the big reactor. In the basement, there's our XP tank, right? This thing is massive. This probably has a couple hundred levels in it. I could actually expand it more since, as it is, I'm full up on experience in it, and I have 121 levels on me, but it's more than I'm ever going to use. So at this point, it just sits there. Over here, we have a portal to the deep dark. That's part of extra utilities, just another dimension. Solid cobble for quite a while, and then quite a big drop. Our typical nether portal. And this little guy here, almost empty. This is an in-cake. Since the overworld is empty in SkyFactory, this lets you actually get to the end. And you have to craft it, and it's like a regular cake, but with some other stuff. But that's your only way to get to the end. A little bit of bibliocraft here, just for producing enchanted books. It lets you kind of duplicate enchanted books. It's not super cheap, but it's definitely more effective than trying to get the enchant you want over and over again. Alright, back we go. And finally, the elephant-sized elephant in the room. This huge thing. It's not fully complete yet, but this is going to be a max-size big reactor. So you can see this here. This is what I used to consider a large big reactor, right? This thing's fairly massive in size. And it's producing, look at that, 25k RF per tick. It's a ton of energy. But there's some achievements to actually take it to the next level. Now this is filled with Enderium, and that's actually one of the better things to cool it with. But of course the achievement wants you to take it to obscene levels, and we have to use diamond blocks to cool this one. Not even as efficient as our Enderium, just way more trouble to do. And this isn't even the best layout. If you look down there at the little one, you can see that we do the checkerboard pattern. That's probably one of your most efficient layouts. This was just the easiest to keep crafting. I didn't want to sit there and try to lay out a checkerboard pattern when I have this many blocks to place. It wasn't going to happen. So eventually I'm going to be able to flick this guy on, and it's just going to be a ton of power. But we still got about 10,000 diamond blocks to put down. So, that's the tour of the main island. You may have noticed off in the distance, there's another little island there. This was actually a multiplayer map, which is why you see the tree there, and where's the other tree? Oh, one right there. So this actually had 4 trees that you could start on, but we only have 2 people playing. So it's just myself and this guy, and he hasn't been on in a while. You can see his island's a little toned down. Oh, you know what? I almost forgot. There's also our Tinker's Construct smeltery. So this is for making a lot of the alloys and some of the cooler weapons. Like this bow that I have here, it was actually made with Tinker's Construct, and you can put modifiers on it. So if you look, it has luck, haste, knockback, auto repair, sharpness. Even the arrows have all these different modifiers on them. And you know, it's a fast and fairly powerful bow. And since my arrows have auto repair, they're actually going to keep reproducing, just building themselves up. I don't know if reproducing is the right word. I don't know if arrows can reproduce. I don't think they have the right parts. But before I leave you, there's one other thing that's not on the main island that's worth seeing. So we're going to use this enchanted charm of dislocation. Lets us teleport around like crazy. And we're going to shoot right over here. Now this is... let's see, I think my island is probably in that direction. Yes. It's a good distance away, which is why it has a little spot loader just to keep this chunk loaded. And the reason for that is that this is an automated wither killer. And I think I could probably... We can force it to do what it's supposed to do. There you go. See? Spawns withers. Drops them right on down. And they get farmed here. And all the items they drop get pulled into a chest and sent back to my main island. But you hear how loud that was. Rather than dealing with withers exploding all the time, let me put this over here. Gets it out of our way a little bit, and it's just far enough away that we don't hear it all the time. Because the sound mufflers that I used on some of the stuff like up here, they'll mute some of the sounds, but not all of them. So with that, I guess I should talk about this ugly thing. This was one more achievement. There was a special energy cell that you had to fill up using just these Stirling generators. Which Stirling generators are not the most powerful generator. They can produce up to 80 RF a tick. It's pretty minimal, but you had a time limit. So we have a ton of them hooked up to a type of power cable that has infinite RF transfer. So all the power gets sucked out of them just almost instantly. And so that's why that ugly cross of generators is just floating there. But with that, I think that just about explains everything on the island. You know, I'm probably missing something, but if I am, feel free to ask me in the comments, and I'll be glad to explain it. Like I said, this is probably going to be wrapping up this series maybe tonight. I don't know if the cobble's going to be ready, but everything else will be ready. And so after that, I'll download the world, put it in a zip file, and I'll put it up, and I'll add it to the description for this video. And so if you want to actually download this world and check out everything or play around with things, it'll be available for you. So if you want to see my next series, I don't know what it's going to be yet. It could be just vanilla. It could be some type of modded survival. Whatever it is, it'll be coming up shortly. But if you want to see it, make sure you subscribe to my channel so you get the update when that series does launch. And with that, thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.